Hey, good morning. Welcome to Power Up with Canvas for Secondary. I'm Brenda Gillis, one of your educational technology coaches. Also with me is Dorothy Carlson. We will be trading off, and we're just going to be running through a few different things about Canvas this morning. So thank you so much for joining us. We are going to be sharing this slide deck on the Canvas Mix courses. All teachers are enrolled in the course, so we're going to show you how to access that in just a moment and where you can find the resources we are going to be going over today. Chat is disabled for this webinar, and we are recording this. We also, if you would like to join us on YouTube, we have a YouTube channel featuring different highlights and videos recorded by our educational technology team to help support you. And we are also on Instagram at PUSD Innovate. So this morning, we are going to be going over Canvas course settings. We'll do a review of assignments, including the Google 1.3 integration. We'll also review student rubrics and enhanced rubrics within Canvas, as well as how you can utilize groups and some features in your gradebook. All right. So I am going to hop over to the Canvas Mix course. Again, you should find this on your dashboard. If you don't find it there, you'll find it under your courses, all courses menu. It is called Canvas Mix. And on the homepage, you will see a bunch of recommended resources for Canvas to help you customize your Canvas page and learn all about how Canvas works and how you can make it work best for you and your students. Scrolling down, you'll find this link to our Canvas webinar resources, which is where you'll find that slide deck I was talking about where we started, as well as resources to the Canvas guides for all of the topics that we'll be going over today. I'm going to hop into a teacher view course now. So this is a sample course that we use, similar to something that you might use. If you like the template here, you can find templates for all of our school sites in Canvas Commons. So in your global navigation bar, if you click on Commons, it will take you over into the Canvas Commons. You'll see we have some featured templates there, including those ones by secondary school sites that are aligned with school site branding. If you are interested in updating your Canvas course, you can download that template and start using that within your Canvas course. All right. In our training course today, we're going to start by going over course settings. In the in-course navigation menu at the very bottom of the page, you'll see the settings link. When I click on that, it's going to bring up a page with several different tabs. I'm going to go over some of the items in those tabs with you. So on your course details page, you'll see the course status. You'll see statistics you can access on the right-hand column. You'll also see the option of copying the course or importing content into the course. If you want to export any content from the course, you have access to that as well. Again, this is all in your settings and course details. You have information about the sub-account that your course is associated with, as well as when students can access. So if it's set to term, that will follow the term dates for that course. You can also switch this to course and then set your own start and end date. So if you need student access to go a little bit longer than what the term end date might be, you do have the flexibility of setting that. You'll see some other features down here as well. And then at the very bottom of the page, you'll see there's also this option for letting students self-enroll by sharing with them a secret URL. You won't see it until you click it, and then you actually have to click Update Course Details before you'll find that secret URL. So if there's a reason that your students aren't enrolled or you need to do some enrolling, you can share that link with them. There's also a lot of other options down here. If you want to allow students to attach files to classroom discussion posts, if you don't want them to, you can unclick that button. If you want them to be able to create their own discussion topics within your course or not, And then if you want to allow them to delete or edit their own discussion replies, you can, that it does default to enabled, but you can switch that off. If you want to allow or disallow students' organization of their own groups, you can do that as well. Again, you'll see all of these options down here for control over those specifics within your course. And just remember, any changes you make won't go into effect until you update the course details. Back up at the top, you'll also see your sections that are enrolled. This will be the sections that are maintained through Synergy, and they're updated with the nightly sync. Over on, if you are a secondary teacher with multiple sections of the same course, you will see all of those listed here. Automatic cross-listing happens for you based on your course title. There are some cases where, for example, I've seen at the middle school level where a teacher may be teaching a workshop course and they actually want those courses, even though they have the same title in Synergy, they want them separated out by grade level. This is where you can actually click on a section within your course and then cross list that section or that course period into a different Canvas course. So you would create a copy of your original course, take a note of the course number in the top, and then cross list. And those directions are linked in the resources that we have provided within the Canvas Mix course for this webinar. So if you want to go through those steps or there's some reason you need to rearrange the automatic cross-listing that happens, you do have the capacity to do that in the teacher role within Canvas. Okay, heading back to our settings page, the navigation bar is another great one to go over. You'll see up at the top that you can drag and drop the in-course navigation. So this is this blue navigation bar. Anything that you see with that kind of eyeball icon crossed out means that it is not visible to students. So you'll see that. You'll also notice that for announcements, if you do have announcements enabled in your course, as soon as you post one, this will become visible to students. You can see that there's no content in there right now, so it's not currently not visible to students, even though it is in my enabled list. This is a great way to pare down some of the options that are available or maybe that you aren't using within your course. So if there's something that you're not using, you can always click on disable. You can, again, rearrange it to make it easier for students to find those most used integrations in your course by placing them at the top. And again, anything that you don't want students to have access to, you're going to click disable. If you have a curriculum integration in particular that you believe should be in your in-course navigation, but you're not seeing it, you are going to want to make sure that you enable that for student access. So again, the three dots, click enable, it'll move it up to the top section. And if you want that up at the very top of your in-course navigation, you can always click and drag that up to the top to make sure that students can find it easily. And then again, down at the bottom of the page, none of these changes will take effect unless you hit that save button, and it is at the very bottom of that page. So make sure if you update the navigation that you're clicking save. The app feature, this is generally managed through our team. There are not very many apps that teachers need to add themselves at the course level. That used to be true for Flip, but that has since gone away. Edpuzzle is probably the one we see the most often. Edpuzzle is not a district supported or provided tool, but a lot of teachers do choose to use that freemium option on their own, and they do offer a Canvas integration that teachers enable at the course level. So this is where you would find that. Feature options is another tab on here. This one is a great place to find any new features or enhancements that are coming out from Canvas. So within feature options, you'll see a lot of features labeled here. There are some feature options that are not available at the course level, but that are controlled at the sub-account or root account level. So either for your school site or for the entire district that our team manages. Um, and then within your course, you will see that you also have a lot of options that you can enable or disable for either to alter the way your course is functioning or student or teacher access. So a couple of those that we want to highlight for you are the assignment enhancements for students. If you click on the caret, it gives you a short explanation of what that is. There's also usually a link to more information about the feature. You'll see that this particular enhancement is a feature preview, which means that they are continually updating it right now. It hasn't become a standard feature within Canvas yet. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see in the state column that currently this is not turned on, but that as a teacher in the course, I do have the ability to switch that on. Student assignment enhancements provides a different workflow for students looking at multiple iterations of an assignment. So this can be a really handy piece for students. You'll see a couple of other options in there. Enhanced rubrics is another great one that we recommend. This actually allows students to do some self-grading, so they can go through rubrics. Dorothy will go over this in more detail a little bit later, but there's some great options if you enable enhanced rubrics in your course. If you're interested in the Student Learning Mastery Gradebook, this is another one a lot of teachers use, so that's another place you can do that. There's also an upgrade for SpeedGrader. It's listed under performance and usability upgrades for SpeedGrader. That might be another one that you want to look at. If you switch it on, you look at SpeedGrader, you don't like it, you can come and turn it back off. So up to you, some management pieces in there. This is also another fun one. If you're looking to include stickers on student submissions, you can do that as well. You do have to also turn on the assignment enhancements for students in order to access this one, but you can see in that additional information that you can do that as well. All right. Last tab on this settings page is integrations. We don't have any in here. You don't need to worry about that. All of the integrations that we have, we're managing for you through the EdTech team. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Dorothy now. She's going to start by going over assignments.
Awesome. Thank you, Brenda. The settings overview is always great because there's usually something in there that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So thank you for that. So we're going to start on assignments, and Brenda's going to click on the assignments link in the in-course navigation. You're probably familiar with this page already, so I'm going to go over some quick basics. So to create a new assignment, you're going to go up to the top right and click Add Assignment. This brings you to a fresh assignment editor where you can title your assignment. Something student-friendly is always recommended. And then in that big box, this is called our rich content editor. Here's where you can put in directions. It works a lot like a document, but you can also add in other media other than just text. So for example, if you have a video and you want to record your directions, you can upload or record media right inside of Canvas. So that's really helpful if you just want to give some quick explanations or perhaps explain something in the directions that maybe takes a little bit more nuance. You can also include course media that you might have, or you can upload something from your computer. So like if you have an image, for example. There's also, and you can upload images here where there's a little image icon. So that again is great, especially if there's a diagram or something important that students need to see before they answer the assignment. You can also access external apps through our little plug here. So this is great if you want to maybe embed something from Canva that you've designed, or maybe a YouTube video, or maybe a Canvas Studio video. There's a lot of options here. That Google Drive LTI, we'll talk about Google integrations next, but that little plug is where you can grab any kind of media that you might have created outside of Canvas. Um, Also, you can grab your Canvas Studio videos and include them here in your assignment using that plug feature. Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, and there's Canvas Studio, and you can just pull the video straight from your library. So if Brenda scrolls down, that's our rich content editor. Here's points, your assignment group. This is where you may have groups if you have assignments weighted. So for example, I have tests, reading, and common assessments, as well as my assignment categories. So that's where you can decide where to put them. You can even create a group right here. So maybe you haven't created your quizzes group. You can do it here and set the weighting as well. Thank you. And then submission type. Submission, oops, sorry, I skipped one. Display grade as. Most teachers use points, but you certainly don't have to. You have a couple different options. You can give percentages. Complete or incomplete is great for something that maybe you're not grading, but you want to make sure that students are exposed to. You can set it as complete or incomplete. And you can also set it to not graded. It's something you just want to be able to see student submissions for. It doesn't have to be graded. I've got it at points. So maybe I do want to give points, but I don't want it to count towards the student's grade because I just want to see that students are working on something. I can check that do not count box and it will not count towards the student's final grade. Under submission type, there's lots of different submission types. Right now it's set at online. So when it's set online, you can see that you can limit or allow all kinds of different online submissions. Text entry is just a box for them to type in. A website URL is just a link. Media recordings is exactly what it sounds like. They can record or upload, like for example, videos, student annotations where they can annotate on a file, and then file uploads would be like uploading a PDF, for example. And then even within file uploads, if you only want PDFs, for example, this is a great place to limit those. This can be useful if you want to use that plagiarism review feature, and we'll talk about that in a second. Limiting it to text entry and file uploads is the best way to use plagiarism review because it can review all of those documents. If you allow students to submit, say, a website URL, Turnitin won't be able to review that online document. So you want it to restrict, for example, to file uploads. So we'll talk about the plagiarism review here in a second. Let's go back to submission types. So we're on online, but it's not the only way students can submit. You can set an assignment to no submission because maybe you just want students to know, hey, we're doing this in class, but you're not actually turning anything in. You might create an assignment because it's got a video and directions, but really it's an in-class discussion and they're not submitting anything. And so you set it to no submission. On paper, they are submitting, but you're physically collecting it. We'll talk about external tool in a second when we talk about Google integrations, but external tools are where you can pull in third-party apps for students to use. And then Lucid is a fantastic whiteboard tool that where students can collaborate and really take things to the next level if you would choose to use that. So let's talk about submission attempts and the plagiarism review. So I've got it set to online and file uploads and text entry. And again, I've got it set that way because that's the best way for Turnitin to be most effective. So submission attempts is exactly what it sounds like, unlimited attempts, or you can limit them to one attempt. If you leave it at unlimited, when students resubmit, it doesn't override their first submission. So you'll see every single attempt and what they submitted. The plagiarism review. So when you have it set to file uploads, Turnitin can review those file uploads. There's a couple things down here that you can check. So store submissions in standard paper repository. I would recommend leaving that checked because what that does is it adds to Turnitin's library. So it can be a paper that other teachers have student submissions checked against. And then compare submission against the repository, website content, periodicals. You can decide to leave those checked or unchecked. You might uncheck periodicals, maybe because you know students are going to be citing a ton of evidence, and you don't want that to come across as plagiarized. The similarity report, same thing. You can choose to exclude bibliographic materials and exclude quoted materials, whatever best fits what you're asking students to do. Down at the bottom, it says show report to students. It's the default is immediately. So once a student submits, they'll be able to see a little color coded percentage. If you don't want them to see that for any reason, you can choose to set it to after the assignment is graded, the due date, or never. Something to note, this is the similarity score. What students are not able to see, but teachers are able to see, is the AI similarity score. So only teachers will see if it's the percentage of possible AI similarity. And again, a note for those AI plagiarism checkers, they are including Turnitin, it is a great tool in your toolbox, but they are fallible. So use it as a tool, but always have a conversation with a student of, hey, this got flagged, what's going on, right? All right, that's our plagiarism review. Group assignments, you can set this to a group assignment. And Brenda's going to talk a little bit more about groups a little later. But the benefit to a group assignment is that if you set it to a group assignment, you only grade one submission for the entire group of students when you're in SpeedGrader, and you don't have to keep track of who is in what group because it will automatically group it for you. So you can see assign grades to each student individually or not. That's up to you. Jigsaw is the name of a group. Samples, another group that I created. And then peer reviews. You can require peer reviews. You can either manually assign them because you know which student should be reviewing which student's work, or you can automatically assign peer reviews. If for automatic peer reviews, just note that it won't assign peer reviews if the student doesn't turn something in. So no one will be assigned someone that doesn't have a submission. So something to think about and maybe review when students are peer reviewing is who didn't turn it in and maybe needs a separate conversation. And then you can set the number of reviews, 0, 1, 2. Maybe you want them to be sure they're looking at 3 different papers. You can put a due date for when the review should happen. You can also allow intragroup peer reviews, and then anonymity. You can choose to have students see who's peer reviewing or allow that peer reviewer to be anonymous. Regardless, as a teacher, you see who is reviewing who all the time. All right, let's go to Sync to Synergy. This is an important one to have checked, especially if you're using the grade sync. If you do not want the assignment synced, you just uncheck it. This is a great feature for maybe you want to take your time grading and you don't want your assignment graded, or sorry, synced until everyone's is graded. Just leave that unchecked. And then when you've got everybody graded, recheck it and you can sync. Our last one down there is assign access. So it's automatically set to everyone. You can set due dates and times. You can also limit the availability of an assignment. So Brenda just said that this assignment is due August 28th, a little bit before midnight, but maybe you don't want students to see it until they're in class. So you can set the availability to whatever fits for your class period. You can also set multiple access points. So maybe I want my first period to see it during first period and my second period to see it during second period. So Brenda, just click that plus button to add a second assign to, and then where it says assign to, you can pick different sections or different students to set different due dates and availability. This is also a great tool if you have a student that maybe needs extra time. You can set their due date or their availability a little bit past when it's due for everyone else. Right, but down at the bottom, we have cancel, save and publish or save. If you want just a draft, click save. If you're ready for students to see it, click save and publish. And if you don't like anything, you want to start all over again, you can hit cancel. All right, those are our assignments. So maybe you want to use the Google LTI integration. Oops, sorry, external tool. So Google allows us to bring in all kinds of work products, and with assignments, in the rich content editor, we can bring in slide decks like Brenda showed us earlier. But then you can also make a copy for each student and have access to each student's document by using the Google LTI external tool. So when we go to submission type, we'll click on external tool and then we'll click on find. And then we're going to go find Google LTI 1.3, and they're all in alpha order. So you just scroll until you find it. I think there we go. There's our Google assignments. And then from here, it will ask you to link to an account. You should see your account here and click link. From here, you'll have some options of what you would like to link. Thank you. So you can link a pre-prepared document. So maybe you have a document with a prompt on it that you want students to have, or you have a document with a prompt and a rubric on it, or maybe resources. You can push out a copy of that resource to all of your students. So when they get the assignment, they've got a document with your directions already on it, or your rubric, whatever that might be. You can also create a document from here if you would like. So it can be a sheet, it can be slides, it can be a document, whatever works best for you. And then down at the bottom, you can either grade using Google Assignments or you can grade using Canvas SpeedGrader. So the benefit of grading with Google Assignments is you're grading on the student's actual document. So you're using the comment feature. You can attach a rubric and use the rubric inside of that student's Google document, which is really great for student access. However, you then would have to transfer all of those grades to your Canvas gradebook or your Synergy gradebook. If you use the Canvas SpeedGrader, the student's Google Doc or presentation appears within SpeedGrader, and you can use the Canvas rubrics and scoring features inside Canvas SpeedGrader. You can choose which way fits best. And I'm going to show you a little hack if you want to use both. Because if you use Google Assignments, which is great for student access to your feedback, you can't use those Canvas rubrics unless you use this hack. So I'll show you that hack here in a second. So Brenda's going to go ahead and pick Canvas SpeedGrader and click Create. And what that'll do is it'll then push out a copy of this assignment to all your students. So they will go to Canvas, access the assignment, and then start the assignment within Canvas, and then it will open a Google Doc that you and the student have access to. So the students don't have to, for example, share their document with you and then your share folder populates. All of those documents will be organized in a folder with the assignment name and the student names already on them for you as a teacher. All right, so Brenda, you can hit select down there on that window, and then we can take a look at, well, how do I hack this if I want to use all those Google grading features, but I also want to use the Canvas rubric? We're going to go back to our assignment. Awesome. And then say we're creating our assignment, instead of making this an external tool, the Google LTI, we're going to make this just an online submission. Oh, thank you. Awesome. So she's just editing. We're going to make this online, file uploads, and save it. And then we're going to go back and add a rubric. So here it's not connected to the Google Assignments LTI. I can create a rubric or I can find a rubric. So we can just maybe go to find a rubric. We'll pick a sample one for right now. So I want to use my sample rubric, add it, and then it will now be linked with this assignment. but I want this to be a Google LTI. So I'm going to go back and edit it. And now I'm going to go back to that external tool, choose Google LTI, assignments LTI 1.3, and then I'll be able to save it. So we can go through all of those steps, but we just explained, um, push it out to students, save it, push it out to students, and it will have all the features of a Google LTI and keep that rubric on it so that later, once students submit, I can comment on their documents inside of a Google Doc, and ta-da, they keep the rubric for grading inside of SpeedGrader. All right, so that's all Google integrations. Since we are on rubrics, let's talk about rubrics. So in the course settings that Brenda talked about earlier, there's a feature that she enabled called rubric enhancements. So she's going back to settings, feature options, and then we've got enhanced rubrics. There we go. And you'll notice that green check mark is green and checked, so it is enabled. So if your rubric screen looks a little bit different, go back to your settings, enable those enhanced rubrics, and then you'll be able to take advantage of all the features I'm about to show you. So there's two ways to look at rubrics. One of them is in your in-course navigation, and click on rubrics. And then this will bring you to what's similar to like a pages menu. You can see all the rubrics in here that have been created. Just like an assignment, you can go up to the top and hit create new rubric. And then you can create a new rubric where you can name it. You can give it a scale. The scale is like a numerical scale, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Written feedback is if you just want to give comments. And then you can decide whether you want that to be scored or not. Usually rubrics, you do want them to be scored, but you don't have to keep them scored. Maybe you just want to click the rubric to give the student feedback and give them a sense of where they are, but you don't want them to focus on the points. That might be a reason to toggle your rubric to unscored. You can create a rubric with points and then later toggle it to unscored. You can go back and forth. Under the criteria builder, here's where you build the rows of a rubric. So we can draft a new criterion. So we can call it, I love it, criteria 1. And then you can enter your descriptor. So this is what criteria 1 is. And then at the bottom is where you have a range. It always defaults to a 4-point scale, but you can change that anytime. You can also click on enable range. And what that does is allow you to click on a rubric indicator and then set the points. So maybe this is useful if you have maybe a 10-point scale and you still want to give them that A rating, but it's a 9 instead of a 10. So that's how you create that ability to give them a 9, but still click on the highest rating. And then the rating names are default to exceeds, mastery, near, below, but of course you can change those to fit your course. And then the rating description is the description of the student's performance. Some teachers decide to put in feedback, like this is something good here, here's your next step for something to work on. And that can help cut down having the time that it takes to comment on student work. And then once you have it the way you want it, you're going to hit save criterion. And there's your first row for your criteria. On visual, so you may, I'm sorry, I understand, but what does this actually look like? Down at the bottom, you can see preview rubric, and then it'll give you an idea of what students will see and what you will see when you're in SpeedGrader. So this is what it would look like so far when we have it in SpeedGrader. If you're like, well, this is the right information, I just don't like the look. If you go up to the top where it says traditional, you have some options. You can change it to a horizontal look. Again, this is what it would look like in SpeedGrader for you, or you can change it to a vertical look, similar, but you can see the descriptors here. It's completely up to you what works best for you. And then we'll go ahead and click out of that preview. And then you can keep building from here. You can save it as a draft. if you put this in maybe a sandbox course, this is something you can work on as a team. And then when you're done, you can import it into your courses. We're going to go ahead and hit cancel since we don't need a new rubric today. And then this is what it will look like once you do have rubrics built and you'll have a library. We'll take a look at the definition essay rubric outcomes. So this specific one, if you click on it, it shows you that same preview view. And then if we go to the three dots on the side, our kebab, so I decide I want to edit my definition essay. I can edit it. I can duplicate it, which this is a great feature because maybe I want my definition essay rubric, but I want a few things changed for a different assignment. I can just duplicate it, make those changes real quick because maybe I don't want a couple of the criteria. And now I've got a rubric I can use with a different assignment because I've got different criteria. I can copy it to a course. So I mentioned earlier, you might be working in a sandbox course as with your whole team. You can work on a rubric together in that sandbox course. And then once the rubric's exactly the way you want it, you can easily copy it into your individual courses. And here's where you do that. You can archive it. Maybe you're like, oh, I'm not using that anymore, but I might want some of that word choice, archive it. And then of course, deleting it if you no longer need it at all. All right. The second way you can create a rubric, and will be real quick, is actually in an assignment. So if Brenda's going to take us back to assignments, and we'll go ahead and click on our really important assessment. And then you can see at the bottom of the assignment, you get the option to create a rubric, it's the same way we looked at earlier, or find a rubric. When you click on find a rubric, it accesses all of your courses. So you'll want to first start, well, what course is that rubric in? And then you can choose a rubric. From there, it's accessing that course's rubric library. Right, that is our enhanced rubrics. Brenda's gonna talk a little bit about groups and get into some more details about that group assignment feature I mentioned earlier.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Dorothy. So to access groups within Canvas, and when they use the term groups, they're talking about student groups. So you're going to access it through your in-course navigation by clicking on People. And then you'll see the list of all of the students enrolled in your course. And you'll also see this Add a Group Set. And once you start adding student groups, you'll have additional tabs up here with the names of those groups that you create. You can add a group set from an assignment as well that we saw earlier, but I think it's much more easier to manage if you actually go in this way and set them up ahead of time. So you're going to set your group name, and then you have an option of allowing students to create their own group. So you're kind of creating this, like you need to go in and then you're going to select which group you're in. If you want to do it yourself, you're just going to leave that box unchecked. And then you can create your group structure. You can split them by number of groups or number of students per group. So depending on what meets your needs better, and then you'll get additional options for each selection you make. So I've chosen to split my students by number of groups. I am creating how many groups I want. And then there's also the option of requiring your group members to be in the same section. So if you want them only to work within that period 1 course or period 5 course, you're going to click that option. You can have it automatically assign a student group leader, and then you have some more choices there, or you can assign it yourself. Once you hit save, you'll see that it's automatically grouped students for me. I can see who's in that group. I can also make changes if I decide I don't like the way that it sorted those groups for me. If you don't have it automatically do it, you can always go in and create those assignments on your own as well. Um, a couple things to keep in mind with groups. Once you assign student groups, students will have this group option in their global navigation, and they will have access to several interactive collaborative pieces within Canvas. So if you create student groups, you're also giving those students the ability to edit a page within Canvas that is shared with that group, to store and share files, to start their own discussion within that group, and to send messages to each other within Canvas for whoever is in that group. So please keep in mind that you are allowing for additional collaboration opportunities for students. You can see all of those, but you won't necessarily receive alerts about any of that communication that's happening. So it is something that you really need to be aware of, and potentially do some digital citizenship lessons to go along with that added responsibility and access within Canvas for students. Once you have groups set up, as Dorothy said, within assignments, you have the ability to include that as an option within your assignment settings. As long as your submission type is not on external tool, you should have the option. You'll see the option for group assignment. You're going to click this is a group assignment. And then again, you can decide if you want to assign grades individually, but usually the benefit of that group assignment is that you're assigning a group grade. And then again, you can go in and select that category that you just set up for your groups, and save that. And then students will have that group assignment. You'll just assign one grade that will apply to all of the students within that group. Okay, we're going to take a look at the gradebook now. And that is going to be in your in-course navigation. I'm going to select grades. You can get to SpeedGrader through individual assignments as well, the kebab menu in the upper right-hand side. When I go into the gradebook, I can click on the kebab menu within the assignment. I have some different filtering options within my gradebook. So if you want to look at specific modules within your course or assignment groups, if you want to go into those student groups, you have that option here. If you want to filter by status or submissions, you can see all of those options. And if this were a course with multiple sections in it, you could filter that way as well. And then within the SpeedGrader, when I click on the kebab menu in the gradebook, I can get to the SpeedGrader. I also have this ability to message students who, which I think is an amazing tool. You can send reminders for students who have not submitted yet, and you can also select to skip excused students. It'll tell you how many students that is. You can view their names. You can decide if you want to include observers. So those would be the family accounts that are attached to students. So if you want to include them or not, that's up to you. Type your message and send. You can also filter that rather than students who have not submitted yet, that haven't been graded, maybe something happened and you just want to let them know, I am working on this. You can expect your grade at a certain time. Or if you want to send a message or just filter, you can say, I just want to know who did really well on this because maybe I have another additional learning or extension activity that I want to provide for them. Or maybe I really quickly just need to look at who didn't do as well on this assignment so that I know this is a group that I need to pull and maybe do some reteaching or provide some additional strategies for to make sure that they're understanding the concepts. So you don't even have to send the message. It can just be a nice way to quickly group students and get some feedback for yourself in your next steps. Within the SpeedGrader function, you also have, if this were an assignment that had a rubric, you would see that over here on the right-hand side. You'll see the submission status, and if students had multiple submissions, you'll see those here as well. So as Dorothy was saying before, with those enhanced student assignments feature turned on in your course, you'll see all of those, and you can go to each version that the student has submitted. And then you have a place for your grade. And then you also have a comments option. And if you to add in your comments, you'll also see that you have a comment library. In your comment library, you can ask it to make suggestions as you're typing, and then you can add in your comments and save them to your library so that the next time you come in, if it's a comment you use frequently, rather than having to type them individually, you can just select from that comment library. And you'll see that once you have them, if you want to add them, you just click on that comment library, click on the comment you want to add, and it will pull it in for you. You can also add in stickers to your comments if you enable that, and you can record video and screen capture with captioning if you want to provide students as audio or video feedback comments, and then you would just click submit. The other information that we have on Gradebook is the Canvas Synergy Gradebook Sync. There are some new steps this year for the 2025 school year that need to be followed in order for that integration to work correctly. And if you are in the Canvas Mix course, we have a link out of that to the Grade Sync, Canvas Synergy Gradebook Sync. This is another course that all secondary teachers in the district are enrolled in. And it provides you all of the steps, including those new steps that we have this year, which are syncing assignment categories. So if you haven't seen it yet, please do go in and check it out. It is an additional little series of steps where rather than the teacher actually typing in the assignment category titles to match exactly what's in Synergy, you'll be prompted to pair them with your course. So the weighting, your Synergy gradebook setup is all the same. And once you get to this page in the course, so syncing at the course level, these are the new steps for the 2025 school year. So you're going to click on in your assignments window, the 3 dots, you'll sync SIS categories, and then you'll be prompted to pair the categories to match up with that course period, the categories that you want to be pulled into your Synergy sync. This will also allow you to toggle on the nightly sync feature so that you would no longer need to manually go in and tell Canvas when to sync your grades. You can still do that, and you can also leave this toggled off, but if you toggle it on, it will pull grades over on a nightly basis. Okay, I know we went over, and appreciate your patience. And we will be providing this recording linked within the Canvas Mix course if you want to go back and watch any of the sections. Again, that Canvas Mix course should be on your dashboard, or you can find it in your courses, all courses. It will have the resources from today, as well as a link to this video, in addition to all other things Canvas that we have prepared for you. And then just a quick reminder for you, we do have another EdTech webinar coming up in September for secondary. We'll be on Wednesday, September 24th from 8:30 to 9:15. And you are welcome to join us. That one will be on AI use in the secondary classroom. We also have additional coaching opportunities available through our Elevated program, which is a one-on-one coaching and professional development program for secondary teachers, as well as additional digital citizenship and AI resources available for you. Thank you so much for joining us today.